Welcome to the beginning of Series 46, everyone. We are bending the rules a little bit this series, but before we get to all of that, first, announcements.
Woo! First announcements of 2022, everybody.
Woo! 2022!
Welcome to 2022. Happy New Year. We made it through 2021 somehow. And I know a lot of people are ready to take on 2022, myself included. Grab it by the horns and attack it before it gets us, I guess.
Everyone get 2022 before it gets you.
Exactly. It's a very good energy, isn't it?
That's true. That is a good, I strive to that energy, Ryan. I hope to someday to feel that strongly of like, I'm going to get it before it gets me.
Exactly. We got to become the predators.
I want a little soundbite of that, of Ryan being like, we got to become the predators. It's like the only time in his life he's ever going to say that.
I'm all for it. 2022. I'm changed.
And 2022, the year of the predator.
The year of the predator. With our thermal vision.
What?
You don't know those movies? Come on.
I don't think I've ever seen them, actually.
Oh, that's what from a while ago. Well, we have some plans already in motion that I think our audience is going to like.
We do?
One thing that we have coming out soon is a new episode 0.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that. I was like, plans.
We did. We re-recorded our episode 0 to replace the old one because, oh my gosh, that old one.
It was painful. It was painful. Like, we both listened to it and we're like, ooh, I'd like this to not be out in the world anymore.
Yes, no, thank you.
So we tripled it in length.
It's a bit longer. We do have some commentary in there. It's the same base content of what it used to be, but it's more of us talking with one another instead of reading off of a thing that we had prepared ahead of time. Yeah,
we definitely have more chemistry than we used to when we originally made it, and so I think that shines through. It makes it a little bit longer, but it's still, I think, still worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if I have time, I want to remaster series 1 through 3. And I might be able to get to that by February, maybe even March. We'll see. And we've got some bonus content that will be coming up sometime soon that we'll hopefully be able to record soon. That'll be out there. And my goodness, we are excited for the possibilities this year.
Yeah, I think that we've got a lot of ideas of things that we want to do. Hopefully now that the holidays are over, it'll give us a little time to kind of sink our teeth into some of those things that we've been excited about for a while. Yeah. Hopefully now we are all like used to pandemic living enough that like we're not like just hanging on by the skin of our teeth.
I know.
So I mean that's my big hope for 2022. I think it's just that like I can finally be like, all right, we're just going to live it up. Like,
in spite of everything, we persevere.
Right. Like, I'm going to stop waiting for things like for it to go back to normal.
Exactly.
We are busy planning our next recordings. We are excited to get to them soon. We also have our 50th series coming up in a few months, which is really exciting. I can't believe that, like, when we started the show, we knew that we certainly had plenty of content. We were not concerned at all of like, oh, do you think we'll make it? We're not sure what we want Series 50 to be, but we're really excited to make it something special. I think that it's going to be our own game that we wrote called Legends of the Heroes Unlimited.
I mean, Rifts is a very good contender for Series 50.
No, I want it to be our own game.
All right. We'll just call it slightly older than preteen, action adventure sort of mutant amphibious creatures. Yeah,
super catchy.
I know.
I was like, I was trying to come up with an acronym, but I can't even remember all those words. No, we're really hoping to make it something special. We're not sure what it'll be yet. But if you have suggestions of things, I certainly would love to hear them. If there's a game that you're like, oh my gosh, this is perfect for the 50th.
Absolutely.
Let us know. We're always looking for suggestions.
For sure. Also, you'll be getting some bonus content from us on the One Shot Network Secret Archive, which I'm excited about. And those will be coming up soon, hopefully the end of January, and then February and beyond. If you want to get a hold of all the older bonus episodes we have, you can check them out by signing up for the One Shot Network Patreon at patreon.com/oneshotpodcast for $5 and above. It's a really great deal. And honestly, it goes to supporting some really fantastic shows on the network. And I'm sure a lot of you that are listening to us are also listening to at least one other show on the One Shot Network. So absolutely check it out if you haven't yet.
That is it for announcements. Fasten your seatbelts, put your tray tables in the upright position, and get ready to take off with character creation for Trash Mob. I promise that this metaphor will make sense by the end of the episode. Enjoy.
Welcome to Character Creation Cast, a show where we discuss and create characters, the best part of role-playing games, with guests using their favorite systems. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan, and this episode, my co-host Amelia and I are excited to welcome Melody, also known as Mother Multiverse from Mother Multiverse Media, to discuss her new game, Trash Mob, an isekai RPG about going from a weak monster to an OP god.
Welcome to Character Creation Cast. We're really excited that you are here.
Well, thanks. I'm kind of really excited to be here. It's always interesting to see what ends up, coming out of the character creation process and seeing what people come up with and how they approach things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's been a thing that I've loved, not only about our show, but like people coming to us about things and being like, well, when I did it, it looked like this. And it's like, we can just come up with such a variety of things. It's just so cool. This process is so much fun. So.
Absolutely.
Do you want to introduce yourself to our audience and to tell everybody what kind of projects you are involved in right now?
Oh, sure. So, hi, I'm Melody. Right now, Trash Mob has just come out as of the previous Sunday. So right now I'm mostly focusing on marketing that. I'm probably going to do two like Christmas adventures. One will be for Trash Mob, the other will be for one of my other games, The Old Ways. So, horror and anime, almost not quite polar opposites, but pretty close. And then once it hits January, I'm going to start working on the Trash Mop Advanced Guide or Deluxe Guide. I don't know which I'm going to title it yet, but it's going to have just a whole lot more options. Like, it won't have as many rules because the base game is there, but just a lot more that you can do with an already very versatile system. And then later at some point, I don't even know if it'll be next year because these books take time to put together. There will be the season 2 kind of book for this game, which is called Peaceful Land's Deadly Schemes. Since the first portion of the game is about like, okay, this is your exciting story, your rise to power when you suddenly, kind of have gained your humanity back. And now you've got, all this ability. And then the next part is about how the world reacts to that and how you kind of step up onto the greater stage of the setting.
Oh, fun.
Cool.
Very cool. Let's go ahead and get into this. We will start by discussing what this game is all about.
What's in a game?
Okay. So, Trash Mob, the description of it being an isekai game of going from a weak monster to an OP god. Okay, what does that mean? What does that entail? So isekai as a genre, for those who don't know, it's a subgenre of anime that essentially means otherworld. And typically these are stories of people from a modern day ordinary world who then, through some means or other, end up in a fantastical, different world than the one they were originally on. And usually they're visited upon by various powers and get cool abilities and become really vital to this world and do a bunch of really crazy, epic, often completely ratchet kind of stuff. And you know, they're very much power fantasies, and I think they work as a genre because, well, it's very easy to identify with a character who comes from a world very much like ours. You can understand where they're coming from, and as they discover this new world, you get to discover it with them, so their bewilderment is already your bewilderment, so you're kind of engaged right from the start, and it's really easy to go along with that story.
I like that.
And Trash Mob is in that vein, specifically drawing more from that time I got reincarnated as a slime, and even more on point, So I'm a Spider, So What? Yeah, it's a great title. It's so ridiculous. In this game, you die, and in your next life, you're born as a weak monster in a fantasy world. And then, you know, through your kind of struggles and survivals, plus some of your knowledge from previous life, you're able to kind of overcome your environment and become some sort of powerful figure in the world. Though, you know, how you react to what you do with that and what your story looks like, all of that becomes extremely variable based on who you were and what kind of world you end up in.
Nice.
So talking about what kind of world you end up in, it sounds like that's something that you as players get to kind of create. Is there a specific setting or guidelines for a setting for this game?
There are some central conceits that pretty much always prove true. Let's see if I can get to my rules of all the specific assumptions of the setting, which I had it before. Oh, there we are. So, okay, there's only like 3 big things that have to kind of remain true for this game to work. One is that it is always a fantastical world. It is bigger than life. Now, that doesn't mean it has to be a fantasy world. It could be that, you know, powers come from psychic phenomenon or genetic engineering or nanites or whatever, or, you know, it doesn't matter on that level, but it has to still be just big and beyond and have crazy powers, right? The second rule is that there is a video game or RPG-like rule set that seems to permeate that world. So when it comes to the abilities you have, in many ways, your character sheet isn't 100% like a real game artifact, but it's fairly close to what you'd be seeing. So for instance, the fact that you have a skill, you literally will have some ability to either bring up a menu or have an assessment ability and be able to go like, oh, what am I looking at? I'm looking at a level 6 monster that has the following abilities. So that's something that's an assumed ability that every character you end up playing has to some degree or other. So you have at least some ability to understand the kind of world you're in.
Cool.
The third thing, and this might change a little when advanced or deluxe or whatever end up calling it comes out. But the third thing that is true is there is a typical adventurer, dungeon, and monster relationship. So at least on the surface, the usual assumptions of these are kind of true. Adventurers fight monsters to save others, gain power, and gain profit, and not always in that order. Monsters are assumed to be dangerous to humanity, and they often gather under the banner of more powerful monsters, sometimes with plans to destroy human civilization, sometimes not. And dungeons and other dangerous places are often the homes of these monsters, and adventurers will go into them to achieve various goals. Otherwise, things are very wide open to reinterpret as you wish to do.
Nice. Okay. I like that.
So those are the base setting assumptions. Everything else tends to generate out of play. Like it's one of those things of there's a lot of random generators here. And this game is set up. You can play it solo. You can play it multiplayer with no GM. You just kind of cooperative it. or you can play it as a narrated kind of situation where somebody's feeding you a story and has things. So like, yeah, that's one of there's a lot of versatility to how you want to play it. And there's advantages to each of those systems. Because obviously, if you're playing solo, you get to decide everything. And when you go, that's cool. Well, it's going in the game because you don't have to negotiate it with anybody.
Yes.
On the other hand, you know, when you hit a narrated game, well, the advantage of that is, I think, surprise, because you don't know what's going to happen. And not only that, like, there's also that occasional ability for somebody narrating to go, that feels too far out of left field. I'm going to just nudge that in another direction and give something that's a little more fitting to what's already going on in this narrative.
Well, and that like collaboration of like, hey, I have this cool thing, and somebody saying, and also, what if we do this on top of it? And then it becomes like this whole thing that's like so much bigger than you planned. And I just love those moments too.
Right. And that's one of the things I've loved about playing around with this system, is that there is a collaborative element if you're playing with multiple people, and there's random elements. And so sometimes things emerge out of play that you didn't expect, but suddenly become part of your setting, part of your world, as it almost sort of writes itself into existence. And it's really fascinating.
Oh, that's
we
really
do
interesting.
love some good random romance.
Yeah, this is like taking two of the things that we love the most. Collaborative world building plus random tables. You mush them together. Oh.
You've made our day. That's those are our two favorite things.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, that's really cool. I like that a lot. So we've got random tables. We'll probably have to roll on those, I'm assuming.
Yep.
So what sort of materials then do we need to actually play the game?
Okay, so as suggestion, it depends on like how you're setting up. If you're playing this online, my recommendation is have a Word file or something open, because you're going to be recording your world as you build it. You know, I have a suggested sample format in the book for how to do that. If you're playing around a table, I'm going to recommend having note cards, because as you explore areas, it might be easier to just, I'm going to write down the name of the area, I'm going to write all the exits it has, and I'm going to write down how I got here, like what was the thing that connected me to this place. And then I can give some fancy text that describes it, so I throw some creative flair onto it, because, you know, going to safe zone number 3, that's boring. But if you go to, say, you know, the spawning pit of, you know, the infinite labyrinth, you go, okay, that's more of a place.
Right.
You know, that
words
has more
matter.
of a zing to it. Yeah. So like, definitely there's one of the things I'll stress somewhere in the book is that the aesthetics you want to pursue, you know, stick with the rules, but the aesthetics are yours to reinterpret as you wish. So when you roll, say, for the monster kobold, what does that mean? It's like, well, if we go back to mythology, it's something completely different than what we have in D&D, and what D&D has now is completely different what it had 20, 30 years back. And if you go to what Japan reinterpreted kobolds as, they're like little dog people, like they're little wolf people or dog people. It's completely different. And I'm like, okay, so
which one of those?
Well, which do you like? Which do you want to look like? Because, you know, I may one day be like, no, I want to be a little dragon person. And another day I'm like, no, I kind of dig the fact that these little, like, you know, wolf guys, like, I'll do that. I want to be fuzzy and cute today. That's where we're going. So, like, aesthetically, you know, pursue what's gonna, you know, follow your bliss, what brings you joy, what's gonna make it look like the game you want to play.
Very cool.
I think I forgot the question we're on.
No. Do we need, are there specific kinds of dice that this game uses
things.
or
this
anything like
uses
that?
die 4s. This is all die 4 based.
Oh, wow. D4s.
Intriguing.
Okay.
Why? Because you wanted people to step on them, or?
No. This wasn't about caltrops.
Because you were like, caltrops, that's fun.
Now I'm just like, and I'm going to shout out Caltrop Core really quick, because apparently somebody else decided, I think it was Titanomaki on Twitter, but they decided, hey, a die 4 system, let's do this, and called it Caltrop Core, and I'm like, that's amazing. But no, for Trash Mob, what I kind of, my initial urge was completely instinct based on this. And my thought was, I'm making a game about small, weak monsters. I want to use the smallest, most humble of the dice, because it doesn't get a lot of credit. And so there's another thing, too, that I figured out along the way of just doing game design stuff, is that sometimes people mistake big numbers for epic. And instead, what tends to happen is a system becomes so unwieldy and so unable to like kind of deal with itself that it's like, well, does it feel epic, or does it just feel like, there was a game I was playing and it was like you rolled for damage, and what would happen is, well, one hit would do absolutely nothing and the other would instantly splatter somebody, and there was almost no in between, and it didn't even matter how tough your character was. And I was like, what's the point of that? Like, you know, you want to have things dialed in, so it's much easier to do big effects in the world with smaller numbers. And so that's some of what my philosophy was on keeping it a tiny dice with a tiny amount of effects.
That's really cool. Plus, you can't stack them. So, like, if you only have D4s on the table, you want to have players stacking dice, getting distracted.
Can't stack dice. What do I do? My ability to fidget is ruined.
I have to play the game.
Oh.
Don't worry, there's always phones.
There you go.
I mean, that doesn't mean you can't bring the other dice, Ryan.
Although I will say, though, if you have a dice roller on your phone, you will not end up stepping on your D4s. So
that's fair. That's fair.
That's an advantage. It's an advantage right there.
This is why I started buying my children only the blocks of like D6s, and I stopped buying them the sets of polyhedrals because they would leave the D4s on the floor. And those are worse than Legos.
Yeah.
They're awful. They're awful.
Especially if you've got the metal ones.
But then I would like change my son's sheets and stuff and find like, he has like the little tiny ones like these. I have them now because I took them away. And I would find whole piles of D6s in his bed, like under his pillow. Like, what are you doing? You're like playing Shadowrun in your sleep. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Trying to access the Matrix.
Yeah, that must be it.
There you go.
So what kind of stories and themes are you hoping people will work with when they play this game?
So there's a couple things that I think it lends itself to. One of the things is that like when this starts, like, well, one, I've already kind of covered why isekai stories kind of work. You get the perspective of somebody from a modern world, which makes it very easy to understand kind of their perspective, because it's in some ways your perspective to at least a varying extent. But when you start off small and you start off somewhere else, this is, you know, kind of life starting over from zero. I think that's actually the name of an anime, but like you end up like, okay, I'm somewhere else. I'm something else. I have lost a good deal of my humanity. And you're getting put into an underdog type story where it's like, okay, this is me versus whatever in my circumstances, and I'm going to try my best on it. So it removes a lot of the, like, because sometimes isekai stories come off as a bit like you're this invader that's conquering thing. It's a very colonialist, but I feel like in this case, it's like, this isn't something you asked for. This isn't something you tried to make happen. This is just a situation you're in, and you're doing your best to navigate it with what you have. And so it's a survival story. And I think there's a humanity story going on there too. Like, what makes us human is some of that background vibe. Like, don't get me wrong. I think that this game can vary from being very just juvenile, like fun times. Like, what happened? Like, I came back as, Kobold in this dungeon. I built the biggest weapons I could, and I beat a bunch of stuff up, and now I'm high level, and that's awesome. But and that will probably happen in your game regardless, but it can also be kind of the story of, in my former life, I was a card player and I gambled all the time, and now in this new life, I don't even have hands. I can't shuffle a deck of cards. How do I mentally deal with the fact that I'm not even like a person? And then you run into some adventures, right? And if you don't have the ability to talk, or some other way to communicate, the first thing they may do is try to kill you. And so the first people you see may instantly hate you.
Ooh.
There's a lot of pathos that kind of goes into that. When you're playing solo, this can be a very lonely survival story where the sudden triumph of having made the first time you make a socialized roll that succeeds and goes, oh my God, I have a friend.
Yeah.
That is so relieving. Like it puts you in a good place. You feel better. Like, oh, cool. I'm not going to be alone forever as some sort of terrible nightmare inside of this, maze. And then, past that, the world kind of can shape lots of different ways depending on what you played before and where you end up. Am I good to just throw some examples of games?
Yeah, go for it.
The first game I did for solo to kind of playtest that was a pixie who ends up in a demon city. And most of her struggle was that struggle of being alone because they didn't see humans for a long time. They fought spiders. They fought zombies with psychic powers. They ended up in an abandoned church and just sleeping there by themselves. It was very sad for a long time. And so the final triumph feeling of I've met some people and they made friends with me. And now we're going to go kill this like demon lord. And then we're going to jet. Like they got out of the city and that was the story. That was a really emotional arc. I didn't expect it to be quite that deep of feels. The next game I did was with this 2-person, no narrator. So it was a multiplayer, but no planned. I did it with a friend of mine and we played 80s punks who died in a car crash being chased by the police. They wake up inside the blasted wreck of the car out in a desert and they're both gremlins. And so they go around and they fight some skeletons. Every human who sees them tries to murder them for a very long time. They eventually manage to make friends with like some people down in these crypts they get into, but in this barren wasteland. And like it was kind of the whole thing of when they finally met other gremlins. Those gremlins, rolled up the personality on them. They were all 100% irredeemable sociopaths.
Oh, wow.
So they like were hurting people and doing stuff. And so they ended up killing the only things that looked like them that they'd met. And they went, oh, God, like, what are we?
Yeah.
We are. Is this like a punishment? Are we these monsters because of who we were in our past life? And so once again, getting into this, like, it's this cute little game and it can be just fun, but you can get these really deep stories. Eventually, we started kind of figuring out the background of the world was that gremlins had been the downfall of the previous civilization. So like this whole place, this barren waste was a testing ground for the adventurers, and they sent them there to go wipe out gremlins so that the new civilization overseas would never fall. And it just happens that these two have been, slowly leveling, and the setting secret that we'd eventually get to is that the ultimate gremlin, the one who's gotten all the cool abilities and makes civilization fall, is called the anarchy gremlin.
Yeah.
Also, they were going to repair that car. Like, that was going to be a thing. We didn't get to that part, but that was going to happen.
No, I love when games can do that, though, when you have the ability to kind of shift between, like, really kind of, like, fun, silly, like, like, oh, we're gremlins. And, like, that's kind of a weird, silly thing. But then, like, these really deep, like, okay, but why am I a gremlin? What does that mean to be a gremlin? And, like, not a human anymore. And, like, I like when we have the ability to tell those really like deep stories kind of within these silly settings, because it sort of like, I don't know, I feel like it gives you a little more room to explore those things than if you just like sat down with your therapist and were like, okay, let's talk about feelings now. It's like, it's a very different way to talk about those things, but to still kind of work out some of that stuff.
Absolutely.
Not that you shouldn't go to therapy and just play RPGs, but RPGs can be therapeutic.
Absolutely. And so, like, as far as stories I go, there are definitely stories that are about humanity, what it is to be human, what it is to be a monster, and how that shakes out. And sometimes how that shakes out is I'm going to play a really shallow game about me becoming really, really powerful, beating up everyone who tries to stop me and going, aha, I'm going to go do the thing I really wanted to do. I think my third game was just about a woman who died in a shark attack. She was a chef. And she was like, I hope I'm the one doing the eating in the next life. And she becomes this newt. And by the end, her like title is World Eater Newt. And just like destroys everything she comes across. But when she finally finds this like dwarven civilization, the only thing she really wants to do is like settle down and start her own like little like food stand and live there. And that was it. That was her story.
Oh,
so,
that's
like,
amazing.
Yeah.
You do you.
Yep.
Do what makes you happy,
Like, what makes sense for the character and is fun and doesn't disrupt other people's fun. That's the good stuff.
Right. Yeah. That's where it's at right there.
Absolutely.
The sweet spot.
Yeah. It does sound like we covered our next question of what do characters actually do in this game pretty well there. There's pretty much
whatever you want.
Whatever you want. Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
Which is cool. But I love that survival aspect. You were talking about like, being a solo and doing this and having that alone feeling. I think doing it 2 players, 1 narrator would kind of enhance that as well a little bit. In some cases, which would be such a wild thing. Gosh.
Yeah. What do you think makes this game unique? I mean, there are a number of, kind of like anime style games. There are a number of, like Year the Monster Now kind of game. Like, what makes this different than some of the other games you've seen? Or honestly, a different way to phrase that question of like, why did you feel that this game needed to be made? Like, why was this a game that you wanted to see in the world? The
deep-seated truth is so I watched So I'm Spider, So What? And that story is very much this girl's teenage girl. Her whole class gets destroyed in like a explosion. And we're playing this like really fun, almost Tim Burton-esque music as she hatches out of this egg and she starts freaking out, looking around like, oh God, there's spiders everywhere. Like, and then, I have 8 legs. Why is this happening? And, but she manages to maintain this, like she's hilarious. Like the character's really funny. And she manages to have like kind of a good attitude, very upbeat, like, okay, this is my life now. Well, I guess I'll, start webs. I'm going to learn how to fight. I'm going to learn how to hunt. I'm going to get away from all my siblings because they're all cannibalizing each other. And watching her story of struggling in this dungeon environment alone, having bad things happen to her. Like I said, just all that empathy pathos thing. And then watching as she keeps getting stronger and starts to overcome these issues. And eventually, like, it's this whole thing of like, you're getting a simultaneous peek into the future where you find out all of her classmates have also reincarnated, which was really fun. Most of them got to be humans and nobles and really good stuff. But the thing is they started off as like babies and she's been going since she was like basically like 0 years old. So she's immensely powerful.
Oh, wow.
And, one of the, by the end, she has like half a human body going. She's kind of turned into a drider.
Oh, no.
No.
Yeah. And so like she's working her way up, and
climbing the corporate ladder of monstrosities.
Of humanity, monstrosities.
Yeah. And like, it's one of those things of watching that journey and, her struggling her way through. It just is really easy to kind of jump on, empathize. And I was like, this is such a cool way to do a story because I love that time I got reincarnated as a slime, which if anybody watches, one of the first bits is just them figuring out they're not human going, I have no limbs, I'm a round ball and I can't see. And I remember thinking that was one of the most fascinating parts of the story. But very quickly they become really OP really fast. Like it's kind of montages their way out of the dungeon. And I really enjoyed the struggle of the other story because I'm like, no, they really fought their way up. They were not just gifted everything. It was, no, they have been working their butt off to survive in a really harsh world. And, you know, just through grit, determination, and cleverness, she manages. So, like, you know, it's easy to cheer on a character who's gone from so far underdog to the heights of power that they've gotten to. And I was just like, and seeing those kind of stories, I'm like, you know, I think other people will want to have this experience of going, I started over in another world. Because I will say now, I was going to say at some point, you know, hey out there, if you're going to play Trash Mob and you're soloing and you decide to do a self-insert, no one can really judge you because no one has to know. If that's the game you want to do, that's fine.
So you don't come into their house and like judge the game that they're playing.
Oh yes, it's you know, it's not real role play if you're playing.
Melanie
a
can see what you're doing with the game,
No, I mean my psychic powers are not that strong. But
and honestly, if I had psychic powers, I'm gonna be honest, y'all. Like that's not what I would do with them. No. I'm sure that what all of you are doing is extremely interesting, but no. Like if I had that power, that's not how I would use it.
But yeah, I thought people would enjoy doing a game where you get to go from almost nothing to suddenly being like a power that could change the world. That's a fun arc to do. Yeah, absolutely. There's something really satisfying about that, especially I think you know, in times like these where we often feel really powerless. You know, I think that there's so many of us right now that are just feeling like things are happening in the world, and no matter how hard we try and are doing these things, it just feels kind of out of control. And so I think there is something really satisfying and validating about being able to be in a game where you're like, I'm on top now. Like, you know, to be the one that's really in charge of things and to really have that growth and to have, you know, all of that work actually come to something, because sometimes it's not like that right now. Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is the part we talk about the history of the game, but I think we pretty much covered all of that. Is there anything else about the history that you want to throw out there? I mean, I might say, like, I started it in February and I thought this game was going to be small, but every time I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to make a little 16-page, 20-page game, put this out, because that's a lot of what I did. And every time I got to that point, it was like, it needs a little something more here. Listeners. Right. Do you want to talk about that feeling? Well, yeah. Oh, right. Exactly. Goodness gracious. Trash Mob's 159 pages right now. Yeah. Which is, it's not a small endeavor to create something like that. That's for sure. New. Yeah. Like, this is the biggest book Once I've more made. With feeling. I was like, Yeah, exactly. And goodness, I've got that same experience of you go to create a small little thing and it's like, well, wait, we need to talk about this. Oh, wait, we need to talk about this. Wait, we need rules for this because this is going to come. Oh, goodness. And then before you know it, you've got 50 plus pages for something that you thought was going to be like 12. Yep. And it's a small game. Small game. I'm going to make a 1-page game, 105 pages. It's a small game about small monsters, but it's not that small. But they get bigger, and then the book got bigger. And then yeah, definitely. Right. But and then you're going to make another book for when they get really big. And then... Right. But you do have a lot going on here. I mean, you've got 3 different ways to play the game. You've got, all sorts of different things going on. So I'm excited to learn more about this because there's a lot of fun stuff, it sounds like, going on here. And I want to get to it. Yeah. But before we do, there might be some basic terms and concepts we need to cover. Probably. Let's see. What are some basic terms? So I think the main term is just realizing that the term skill in this game is specifically the name for the powers and abilities you get. And your character, there are a few other traits you get as you go, but skills make up the bulk of how your character works. So, I'll go ahead, I guess, and give an example. Like if you play a vermin mob, one of your base skills is sneak. You gain the ability to sneak around and get past things. And then, you know, if it goes further down to, let's say, slime, that's a pretty popular choice. Slimes and aberrations. The next two skills you get are acid attack and resist bashing damage, which, I mean, resist bashing damage, I'm pretty sure you can imagine what it does. Acid attack is pretty straightforward as well. Yeah. And so those couple skills coming together will pretty much make up the bulk of your character. And then you have a like occupation, like job class occupation kind of deal. And your level. Levels, I think people are pretty familiar with. Levels in this go like 1 to 99 or 100. I can't remember which. Just because that fits much more with the kind of like video game RPG kind of aspect for it.
Yeah. I like big numbers. There's something satisfying about it. I mean, you talked about that a little bit before with like the dice and stuff, but you know, as far as levels, it's like, it's fun to be like, I'm level 48 rather than I'm like level 4. Like it just doesn't, you know, even if it's the same amount of like power and stuff, sometimes it's fun to just be like, I'm level 400.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's over 9,000.
Yeah, that's definitely something like, you know, the skills will level up in tiers. There's tiers. That's also, I guess, an important thing. So most skills start off at the basic tier. You don't put the word basic in because you know where it starts. But then you move from basic to improved, improved to greater, greater to master, and then master to ultimate. And at each of those tiers, those skills will jump up a great deal in kind of what they're capable of, what they do, how they work, etc. So, yeah, not only do you get the satisfaction of, ooh, I'm level, you know, really high, but you also have the like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not throwing acid attacks anymore. Like, you know, peasant, I have an ultimate acid attack. It's like, what does that mean? It means somebody's getting hurt when you hit them with this. It's going to hit hard. Yeah, so that's part of how that works. And then as far as the skills go, they are organized into several types. When playing the game, these types will matter. Character creation is probably, well, I mean, it matters because you're making choices, right?
Yeah.
So you have attack skills, you have defense skills, you have boost skills, and you have movement skills. If you look on the right-hand side at the top of each pages, there's a little kind of lexicon almost going, like little symbols going. So you can see the attack symbol, the defense symbol, the boost signal, or symbol, and the movement symbol at the top. And so when you later go to the skills chapter and look at them, all the skills are set up like cards so that if you want to, rather than try to record on your sheet and have to look them up every time, you can print them out, and they're built so that you can record what level they are, what tier level they are, and know exactly what they do. So if you want to make your character into basically like a deck of cards that you can quickly shuffle through and go, okay, these are the things I need to use, that is totally viable.
Cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. All right. Anything else before we get into character creation that we need to know?
I think if there is, we'll discuss it as we go, and it'll all make sense. Character creation is fairly simple. Like, this is going to probably be the shortest part of things. So
no, because we take a long time to make decisions.
Well, okay, but I will say that. Well, that's fair. Okay,
don't worry, we can make it complicated. We'll find ways.
All right, I believe in you. So.
Well, it sounds like we're ready to make some people. So shall we make some people?
Yes.
Let's make some people.
Let's make some people.
Let's make some people.
All right. So what do we need to do first?
Okay. Sure. First thing we kind of need to do here is we got to figure out who we were in the real world. Now, as far as like kind of a starter idea, when you're playing with a group versus solo, obviously you have some different considerations, because you could have all completely unique origins, but I find doing a group origin is just much easier. It puts you kind of on the same page. And it gives you some reasons to kind of know each other, and that just makes it narratively much easier. That when like all this chaos goes down, you end up in this new place, you're immediately on the working together together level versus, okay, how do we contrive a way they all get together? Nope. We're all gonna get hit by isekai, or the what was this the term, truck coon together. It's a pretty common isekai joke. Isekai joke. But what I was thinking, what I think we may have planned out a little bit ahead of time, just so we're not getting too caught in the weeds here, is that we're all going to be people going to an anime convention.
Yeah.
We're on a plane together, and then the plane goes down, and then when we wake up, we are not who we were, and we're somewhere completely different. And we're not going to know that part until we get to the end of it. So right now, what we need to do is just come up with those people and what they're like, and maybe come up with a little bit of who they are to each other. And, you know, obviously I'm thinking anime type fans. Do either of you have any strong thoughts on this so far?
I mean, so like generally as a person, I am not an anime fan. So I need people to like explain this, because like if it's not like Yu-Gi-Oh, I freaking love Yu-Gi-Oh.
But that's a way to like
outside of that.
But that's like a potential like hook, is you could be somebody who is like not really all that into the anime scene, but maybe you're a card gamer, or maybe you're a video game person. I think a card game person would be actually really cool as a starter, because it's a little different interest area, right?
Yes.
But like there's enough of that overlap to go to the same convention. Right. It's called
Gen Con. And
well, I mean, especially if they're like a pro gamer type person, you know, like somebody who actually can compete on the circuit
on a high level.
That makes them pretty interesting.
Yeah, I would love to be let's say world's foremost Yu-Gi-Oh player.
Yeah. No, that sounds good. That sounds like a good start.
Because if I'm going to play a game, I'm going to be good at it.
Yeah, and the one that believes in the heart of the cards the most.
It's true.
In the whole world.
It's true.
Oh, no, I think that sounds fun. All right, so
I really love Yu-Gi-Oh.
So for your like job class, you could put, you know, professional card game person or best Yu-Gi-Oh player in the world if you want. Whatever you feel is a good way to put it. That can be however.
I mean,
you
like
want it to
I have
be.
all the sponsorships.
Oh yeah.
I just want to be clear. Like I think even Mountain Dew, maybe I'm that good. I'm like Mountain Dew level.
Mountain Dew level.
Mountain Dew level. F card gamer. I just want to be really clear to people that I do actually really love these games, and I have like played in tournaments, and so like I'm not making fun of you. I do really like these things, and like so to everyone listening, I promise this is said with love.
Okay. And then obviously you'll need some kind of name for your character. It's not the most important thing in the world, but you know, it's not a bad idea to have a name.
Gotta think of a good last name for my character. I wanted to be like also famous, but like in a like actual celebrity, maybe like a singer.
A singer
that loves going to cosplay conventions.
Okay. So you like incognito, like you're like a famous singer, but you're like wearing a costume so nobody knows who you are, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like, you know, it's one of those like if you're in the know, like if you follow all the right accounts, you'll
like one of those people that like does it like leaves clues that like they'll be at the conventions or whatever, and then like leaves clues about who they are there, and like I love those people.
It was like what's his name, Bryan Cranston cosplayed as Walter White at a convention.
Oh my god, that's ridiculous.
I mean, he also went on like one of the late night shows dressed as a Power Ranger too, though. So it's very good. It's very good.
No, that's super fun.
What's a good name? Names are hard.
Yeah, names are very hard. You can always just use a random generator if you need to. I mean,
I know. I usually have my books in here.
And I mean, to be fair, this is the kind of genre, if you have a very on the nose name, that is completely acceptable. Honestly, hearing your character concept on it being like a singer who's famous, I'm almost I was thinking maybe playing a character that was kind of fighty.
That's interesting. I'm going with Felicia Starfire.
Oh,
For
yeah,
her
that's a
name.
good one.
Oh my God. That is
Which sounds like a
amazing.
really like bold sort of performer that has that like feisty attitude, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, no, that sounds great. But once you mentioned that, I was thinking earlier, you'd mentioned, necromancer and magical girl as some of the vibes, right?
Mhm.
And I was like, what could I do that isn't either of those? And I was like, I could be fighty. Fighty sounds good. And so the idea of maybe you're doing this and I could be your bodyguard, who is
Ooh.
also like in a like disguise kind of thing. Like, okay, I don't want
Yeah, I
anyone
like
to
that.
know. So they're dressed up and maybe they look completely ridiculous, whatever they're dressed up as. And then
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, I will entirely, if depending on what comes out in the next part of character creation, I may entirely retcon their costume to match whatever they turned into because
Yeah.
those kind
Go
of
for
details
it.
are fun.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm thinking they're going to be a bodyguard.
I like the thought that like the three of us were sitting next to each other on the plane.
Oh yeah, no, it's
So there was like plenty of time for like conversation before, things went down literally.
Not a name. Wow, the names are hard.
I know. I'm trying to like look up like good Yu-Gi-Oh cards that I can like be named after. Because I put too much thought into this, even though this is for a podcast and no one cares long term. Like, what's a good?
Wait a minute. I was reincarnated as a blue eyes white dragon.
Okay, my name's gonna be completely ridiculous. I had a friend who did some MMA, and her MMA name was the Honey Badger.
Oh, nice.
So I think for this character who will be very fighty, her name is going to be Honey Barrington.
Oh,
Yes.
Nice.
Yep. I don't know what her cosplay is yet. Like I said, we'll get to that in a minute. So once we've all got our name and our kind of occupation, we'll probably move on to the next portions a little bit
All
here.
right. Professional singer. Perfect.
Now, we all named up, or are we?
No, but that's okay. I'll think on it and
We'll get there.
It's always the
We'll
last
add it
thing
in
I do. I
post.
just can't.
No, that's
yeah.
fine. This does not have to happen in order because this is the before you play the game, right?
Yep.
You build it out in a way that makes it work for you.
Absolutely.
So, okay, so from here, where I'm gonna roll one of the first dice, there is a how you died chart. And it's not so much the means of how you died. Like, we're already on the plane. We know it's going down. But this is more the context of why this happened. Because in some cases, like how that happens, I feel like really flavors things. So someone who dies in a freak accident, it being one of those, oh, you died before your time, you're going to get reincarnated, is very different from, oh, you lived a terrible life, and while this place feels like hell, it's supposed to be, this is your punishment, like this is your penance. That's a very different vibe, right? So I'm going to roll a die 4 and see what it suggests and see if we can kind of work that as part of like what's going on with our characters. Does that sound
I
good?
like that. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Give us that
So,
random.
I rolled number 1, and this says dying for the sake of others. We do some kind of good deed, and our actions save some people. So, with a plane going down, I am almost imagining this gets into some over the top action movie kind of nonsense almost, right? What if the case is there was like a storm and it's one of those things of like, or maybe the pilot has an accident and essentially, or I mean, we could even do the terrorist plane attack. It really wide open. Anybody got any inspiration on this one?
I like the thought of there's a storm and, the plane gets hit and the pilots get taken out and we just happen to be in the right place to get to the front because we know we're going to go over like a population center.
Right.
So if we don't get this plane under control at least a little bit, we're
gonna
gonna
hit a
go
city.
over. Yeah, we're gonna hit a city or
I
something.
like that idea too. I think
Yeah.
that's solid. So we managed to steer things out of the way, and this becomes our fiery gate into another world.
I like the thought of as we're about to hit. I like take off my helmet or whatever I'm wearing on top, right, and then like easily recognizable as Superstar.
It was like the perfect hair. Like there's a moment of like take the helmet off, like shake out the hair, and there's like a little like. Boing.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry. I'm now seeing like the anime scene where you do that, and someone's like, "This is Popstar," says the complete name, like just the normal kind of reaction, and then their jaw doesn't work correctly for a bit. Yeah, no,
It's Felicia Starfire.
Yeah, Felicia Starfire.
We got to do something.
Yeah. Yep, that sounds good.
Oh, amazing.
Awesome. Okay. Is that enough of the idea? Are there any other?
Yeah, I think that works out really well. Yeah, so we saved a populated city at the expense of ourselves.
No, that sounds pretty good. Like, yeah, I mean, we were going down. We didn't have to do that, but we decided to do the right thing, and then we're gonna end up in this other world. So, the next part is we're gonna get our forms of. This is part 2, page 27. Who you are now.
Oh, I was so excited.
And this part's really easy in some ways. Now, I have a section there that says, "Thanks, I hate it. Can I reroll?" The answer is obviously yes. Like, there are some things that you're just like, I never want to play X ever. Don't make me, game. And it's like, listen, you have free will. Yeah, like, re-roll it. It's okay. This is meant to be fun.
Yeah,
re-roll if you need to.
I mean, there's a lot of people that have phobias of specific types of creatures and stuff, and if you're going to be, or even somebody else in the party. If
also there's a level of just like, it's a game.
Yeah.
Have fun. And if that doesn't feel like a thing that's going to be fun for you, then don't do that.
And like,
absolutely,
there's replay value to this game. I've played it a lot. Designing it involved a lot of play testing, and I hate saying there's some things I've already played that I'm like, maybe something new, maybe something different. I want to try a different route.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So to do this, we have the your new form chart, and we simply roll 1d4, and that will decide your base type, which will be either vermin, domestic animal, undead, or small humanoid.
Oh, I'm so happy about this.
The second dice will determine what the subtype of that is going to be.
Oh, so, I hope you get a 3,
Amelia. How about we
Amelia.
all roll, and then we'll all say what we got, and it'll be kind of a fun reveal.
So I've got my my metallic D4.
Oh, I was just gonna say that like I wanted to tell you what dice I'm using, because I'm using these ones that look like bones.
Oh, I love it.
So I just wanted everybody to know.
I've got my signature blue-green
love it.
combo in metal.
It's pretty.
And really it hurts shaking this dice in my hand because the points are so sharp. I'm going to come through with this recording in my... Oh, what did I get? I got a 2.
I got a 1, which is vermin.
Okay. I got domestic
I also
animal.
have vermin.
Okay, so now we roll again, right? To find what we get under that category. Oh my God, I really hope I'm a spider. Please, please.
Oh boy.
Reptile. Fine. Snake on a plane.
I got domestic animal, food animal.
Domestic animal, food animal. So now you'll notice that these types, while they kind of give you a suggestion, you can definitely play with what that form is. And so after we get this initial roll, we have one more thing we need to do for our form, which is we get to pick one more skill. Now, typically this gets into kind of how you want to start your game and what's going on. If you want to play a more high power game, you could pick more than one skill or start picking from the more specialized skills you'll find in mystery skills. And if you want to go completely OP, you can start with the crown skills in Apex. But in this particular case, I think just to keep things simple, we should probably pick from one of the powers on the new form chart. And what you'll find is kind of useful there is that can either define more some sort of ability you get from your occupation. Like as a bodyguard, it might be really funny for me to get muscle because I am a rodent vermin. And so being like a mouse that just like has super strength for no reason sounds hysterical to me. Yeah. I might do that. I'm not saying I will. I'm just thinking I might. But, you know, on the other hand, you could also, well, I mean, and then it could also be to like further define what kind of critter in specific you're playing instead of just like an occupation ability thing. Like, if you're playing a bug vermin, for instance, and you've got, okay, poison attack, vertical movement, sneak, you might be playing something like a beetle and you're like, okay, I want to be really tough. Maybe I will take resist bashing or, you know, some other power that really works for giving me that ability, right? To kind of further define the creature you're playing.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So I'm sorry, I was trying to write stuff down. What are we doing now at this point? What am I looking at?
We've got, so the form chart should give the initial skills. If you've got those down, this is about you get one pick of an extra skill you can get.
Okay, cool. So since I rolled domestic animal, I get charm for that.
Yep, you get charm.
And since I rolled food animal, I get both metabolize and scavenger / grazer. Yep,
that's sort of so that you can choose kind of like, so scavenger grazer is going to help during this survival stuff. When you get to the survival portion, because like a scavenger is better able to find animal resources, a grazer is better able to find plant resources, and they both just help with survival rolls. Okay. Metabolize, on the other hand, as long as you've eaten, it gives you extra health levels. And so it makes you tougher in general. Nice. And so while those start small, it's like, okay, these are small things you get for the food animal. Later, they can be very like, you know, like, okay, I have like 5 extra health levels. It doesn't matter what this is. I'm probably going to win the fight as long as I don't get like knocked down too far.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do for my 4th pick yet, but I've got some thoughts.
Yeah, I'm trying to. There's like a lot of good choices here.
There really are. And if you see something, you go, that sounds cool. Ask me what it does and I'll tell you. Awesome. Because there's a lot of abilities. So you're playing reptile?
Yeah, I'm going to be a snake.
Okay, you're snake. So you got sneak, quick, and regenerate. Regenerate's obvious what it does. Every turn, you get to roll a dice. And if it comes up a 4, you get a health level back. And as it gets higher levels, you get more of those dice to roll. And then quick, you roll a dice. And if it comes up a 4, you get an extra turn. So that's pretty powerful. And sneak obviously is, well, it gives you the ability to sneak around. It gives you bonus dice for advantage, which is kind of like initiative in most games.
I think I kind of want to just take poison attack.
Yeah.
Too, because I just feel like
logical.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally makes sense.
I mean, sometimes it's fun to do the thing that doesn't make sense and just sounds silly, but I think poison attack sounds cool.
No, that's really good.
It does sound really good. I'm trying to figure out what sort of animal I want to be, though.
Yeah, that definitely can, because like part of me is like, I could take vertical movement and play a bat instead of just being like a ground rodent, but I'm not sure that's where I want to go right now. Like, I'm not sure that's the thing I really want to get into. And I'm also like looking at all the odd abilities that come in later, and I'm like, oh man, there's a
I think you should be some kind of like horrible Australian monstrosity. Like, you know, everything in Australia can kill you.
This is true. Everything in Australia is very deadly. You know?
I almost want to...
Oh boy.
I see.
Oh boy, where's this going?
Okay, I found the skill horde tactics. You become an expert in fighting in and against groups.
Yep.
Knowing which ways in which they move and coordinate. I was thinking about taking that and being a goose.
Okay. Just so you know, there was one of the playtest games was two of us got food animal. One of us was a goose and the other was a goat. And I didn't realize we had both was it like Untitled Goose Game and Goat Simulator in the same game at the same time. Oh, that could have been so much chaos. But yeah, it was short-lived, but I was still very much enjoyed it. So goose, super viable.
Have to be a goose at this point, and I'm taking horde tactics as my my fourth skill.
Sounds good. And there I am, like being all picky about what I get, and I'm like, I'm the one who invented this game. Shouldn't I know right off of the?
I just wanted to make a snake on a plane joke. Really?
No, I mean, that's fine. That's perfectly fair. Gosh, there are so many good things I could get, but I'm thinking I'm not gonna take muscle because as much as like Muscle Mouse is like kind of great, I'm not sure I'm quite feeling that. I think I'm gonna take I'll take Hit and Run. It's a pretty good boost ability that'll make it so I can do like fast attacks and eventually use fast weapons. Although it might be better for me to take Ambush right off the rip, so I can just get surprise attacks on people and do a lot of damage that way. Decisions. I think maybe I think I'll go with the simpler instinct. I'm going to take Muscle, and we'll see how that goes, because being a super strong rodent is pretty funny.
That is pretty funny. I like that a lot.
So skills, got my sneak and my disease attack and speed, which is good, and then muscle. So that's going to be a hit pretty hard as a character. I'll say that ahead of time.
Call to action.
Yeah, like that.
I really like the simplicity of character creation in this game. It actually went really fast. And it was really cool seeing a game that was just D4s.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Yeah, I didn't think it was something that was feasible, but apparently it is. And it actually works. And I was like, oh, that's pretty sweet. But, before we let you all go for the week, we have just a couple calls to action.
First up, definitely check out the One Shot Network Patreon at patreon.com/oneshotpodcast, because network overlord James D'Amato is about to have a baby with his partner Mel. And who wouldn't want to support that amazing family and, network babies?
Gotta support the network babies.
Yeah, it's an important cause. Network. You too can support a network baby.
For as little as $1 a month.
Yeah.
You too can support network babies.
Plus, you get some amazing bonus content from other shows on the network, along with our show. And that's just a win-win all around, honestly.
That sounds like a good time all around, so why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Another way to have a good time all around is to leave us a rating and review through services like Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, etc. And now you can actually even rate us on Spotify. So if you are listening to us through Spotify, welcome. Also, you can go and rate us, and that'd be awesome. It always makes us feel amazing seeing every review, and we'll actually be reading the 5-star reviews right here. Unfortunately, we do not have any new reviews to read at the moment. I'm sure everybody's been busy with the holidays, but now that all those holidays are over, if you have some time, go out there, leave us a review, and we'll read it right here and give you some thanks. And really, it would just make our year amazing to start off that way.
Yeah, it would. We love them. You know, we say that every time. We love reading them. We love getting them. It does really make us happy. We're not just saying that for the recording. It really does. It really does matter.
We even say that when we're not recording.
I know, we do. That is it for this week. You can join us next week as we dive further into character creation and even break our format a bit. Until then, please stay safe, drink water, get vaccinated, and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us for part 1 of this character creation series. We'll be back in part 2, picking up right where we left off.
Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter at CreationCast or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can be found in the show notes. If you'd like to leave us a rating or review, we have links to various review platforms out there, including Apple Podcasts, in our show notes. Also, check the show notes for links to our other projects. Thanks for joining us, and remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We will see you next time.
Now we gotta read some show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs. Character Creation Cast is hosted by the One Shot Podcast Network. If you enjoyed our show, visit oneshotpodcast.com, where you'll find other great shows like Neoscum.
Neoscum is a narrative comedy podcast featuring 5 Chicago improvisers antagonizing their way through the role-playing classic Shadowrun. It follows a group of misfits and outsiders: Z, the acerbic cyber troublemaker; Pox, the candy junkie klepto from across the pond; Tech Wizard, the public access actor with a petulant thirst for adventure; and Dak Rambo, the nastiest trucker this side of the Robo-Mason-Dixon. Join the irascible Neoscum crew on a puerile rockin' road trip through a weirdo world of tomorrow, doling out street justice to every deeb they encounter, whether they deserve it or not.